Good evening, online students. Tonight is our webinar about financial aid and answering the most common questions and just giving you some basic information that you need to know as students here at Southwest Tech. Tonight we have Joy Kite here with the Financial Aid Department, and she's going to cover lots of great information, and she can always be reached if you have any questions after this. So, to you, Joy.
All right. I guess the first thing, there are a couple things that I'd like to talk about right away, and one of them is the difference between being a student at a technical college versus a four-year college, because as far as financial aid is concerned, that there's a significant difference. Typically, if you're enrolled at a four-year university, you're accepted to the college, and that means then you're able to receive financial aid. In the case of the technical college, two-year colleges, you are accepted to a program of study, and you have to be taking the coursework in that program of study to receive financial aid. And the program has to be an approved program too. We do have a few very, very short-term programs, things like CNA, things like nail technician, that are just maybe 3 or 9 credits. They're not eligible for financial aid if they're taking just that program. We also have some other certificates. There are, I believe, some certificates in the IT area where you're only taking like 9 credits. And if you're not accepted in one of the IT programs, then you're not eligible for financial aid for that work, which is unfortunate, but that's the rule. So that's kind of an important distinction between the two different kinds of attending the two different colleges. Most people think they can just, come to the college and take accounting and welding, an accounting course and a welding course to see which one they like. And it doesn't work that way. You've got to be accepted either in accounting or in welding and just taking the courses for that program. You can take anything you want, any courses, but for financial aid purposes, we can't consider those courses part of what you're being paid for. So that's kind of an important distinction. The other thing about financial aid that people always say, we go out, our office goes out every fall, and we go to area high schools and we do financial aid night presentations for the seniors coming out of high school and their parents, hopefully, about financial aid and filling out the FAFSA and things like that. And typically what happens is they come to a presentation like that and they want a number. Mm-hmm. If our family, adjusted gross income is $50,000, is my kid going to get any money? And the problem with that is there isn't a magic number like that we can throw out and say, well, if your family income is over $55,000, your student's only going to be eligible for student loans. We can't really do that because there are 5 things that are factored into the FAFSA calculation. And that is income of the student and the parents, if the student's a dependent student. Assets. Now, assets in the financial aid world are not cool things like, your cars and your boats and your campers and your four-wheelers and your snowmobiles and all that stuff. Assets are cash that you have in the bank. And if you typically own like a second home or something like that, or maybe a rental property or something like that, those are considered assets. The other thing that factors in is the number in the household. And I know that's kind of a hard number to arrive at for some people, depending on whether we have maybe stepchildren or maybe they're not even step yet, but swinging in and out of the household every other weekend, that kind of thing. Which parent do you live with? That's kind of what factors into when you file for financial aid. It doesn't have anything to do with, whether you're claimed on your parents' tax return or not. It's who you live with more than 50% that factors in for a dependent student. For independent students, that has no bearing at all. So number in household, how many are going to be in college during the year? The more the merrier. If you've got maybe your son or daughter is going to go to college and you've decided to go back to school now, okay? Your son or daughter doesn't have the advantage of claiming you on their FAFSA as a person in college, but you have the advantage of claiming them in college. So the parent should definitely take advantage of that and see if they're eligible for any financial aid. And the other thing to keep in mind about financial aid is when we talk about financial aid, I say the words financial aid and people think free money. And you have to be careful with that because financial aid is a bigger umbrella than that. Financial aid is considered grants, which are free money, some scholarships, student loans. Even though you have to pay them back, they're still considered financial aid and they still fall under that umbrella, as well as work study, which is a job on campus that you work a few hours a week and you get paid to do the work. But all four of those different types of funds fall under financial aid. And it doesn't matter that whether you have to pay it back or you're not paying it back or you're earning it or you're not earning it. They all fall under that same umbrella. So we have to keep that in mind. People tend to think that financial aid is only the free money, the money they don't have to pay back. And that is not the case. Okay. And the other thing, I kind of, I'm jumping around now, but the other thing that factors into how much a student is eligible for and their FAFSA is calculated is if the student is a dependent student, which means they're younger than 24, they don't have any children they support, they were never in foster care or a ward of the court or anything like that. The age of the older parent on the student's FAFSA factors in to what the student's eligible for, which is really odd, I know. But it factors in because the closer that a parent gets to retirement, they factor in less of their income and their assets. So the older parents have an advantage at this. So, like if you've got a parent that's in their 60s and they're sending their last kid off to college, there's a little bit more of an advantage because they're going to look at less of mom or dad's income than they did when that parent was 45 or 50 and sending a student off to college. So that factors in. If you're an independent student, your age does factor in. So it's just not as significant is all. So because of those 5 different things, income, assets, number in household, number in college, age of the older parent, there isn't a magic number that I can say because it's different for absolutely every household. I mean, we may have one household over here that has 3 people in it. The adjusted gross income is $50,000 and they've got 1 in college. And over here, I've got another family whose adjusted gross income is $50,000 and there's 7 people in the household with 1 in college. They're not going to be eligible for the same amounts of financial aid just because both of them have an adjusted gross of $50,000 because these other things factor in. So there's not a magic number we can throw out there. Typically, we say to people, the only way we can tell you how much you're eligible for is to apply. You've got to fill out that FAFSA, okay? So I would like to show you, not sure how we do this, Heather, for sure.
Yep, just click
how
on
to,
that. Oh, and go back to your Zoom.
and I got to share, don't I?
Yep, so just hover there. Yep, and then click on, yep.
This one, okay.
Mm-hmm. And then
share screen.
Yep.
Okay, so this is the homepage of our website, and we do have a lot of resources out here for students. If you look under student resources and kind of hover there, then you get this next row of, and I moved, so student resources, and then you can move over to financial resources. Or if you just click on student resources, then that second row stays there. And you can either pick financial resources here, or all of those items become available down here as their own box that you can actually click on and have access to. So we've got financial resources down here. And then you see that we've got a box for financial aid. We've got information about scholarships, veterans education benefits, which is also handled in our office. Payments and billing is also handled in financial aid, and the payment and billing office are the same people. So we can kind of help you on both ends of that spectrum. We know how to help you get money, and we know how to help you pay for things. So, which is kind of handy, actually, for you students. The staff is all listed over here on the side, and you can email at any point. Otherwise, we can drill down to financial aid specifically. And we talk kind of generally about financial aid right here. And again, this part right here actually talks about how to be eligible for federal or state financial aid programs and the things that are required. And again, the very first one there, apply and be admitted to an eligible academic program. That's kind of number one as far as, coming to a technical college is concerned. If you're not looking to receive any financial aid, and that includes student loans, remember, you might not want to apply for financial aid if you're just going to pay out of pocket, or you have a resource to help you pay for it. You may not want to. Students that have maybe some assistance from a third party, whether that's TAA, WIOA, veterans benefits, things like that, we still encourage those students to apply for financial aid. Just because you're receiving a benefit like that does not preclude you from receiving financial aid too. Not in any way, shape, or form. So we really try to encourage people to apply for financial aid, even if you're getting that kind of assistance. So I want to point out this short tutorial right here. It's why apply for financial aid? Well, it's easy. View a short tutorial on filling out a FAFSA. This is a really nice tutorial that walks you through the steps of filling out a FAFSA, kind of a high level view, but it's really well done. And so that's kind of there to help you through the process. The other thing to keep in mind is the thing that we kind of like pride ourselves on at Southwest Tech, because we're small, is that my office, the staff, we're all willing to help students with their financial aid. And that starts with filling out the FAFSA. If you are not comfortable doing it, or you start and you're kind of feeling overwhelmed, or you're feeling like, I'm not sure if I did that right, contact us. That's what we're here for. There's an email, just a generic email right down here that comes to us in the financial aid office. And typically within 24 hours, we're responding to that. There's a phone number here. And if we don't answer the phone right away, leave a message, and we try to get back to you within 24 hours to answer your question or help you. And we are more than willing to try and help you online with any issues that you've got. We have a lot of students that end up deciding, to come in and sit down with us in our office. And I know for some of you that's not possible because you're too far away, but that's okay. Like I said, we'll try and help you online. We'd rather try and help you do that than have you out there kind of floating, with your FAFSA half done and not having a way to pay for, going to school. We'd really rather help you with those things than have you in limbo like that. The other thing, we've kind of got, the next steps down here. You create an FSA ID, you complete a FAFSA. Here's our school code that you'll need for completing that FAFSA. And then just kind of some general information about then the rest of the process. There are other related links that we've got here, some policies and procedures down here for students to read. But there's lots of information here. And like I said, if you're really not confident about what that's trying to tell you, please don't be afraid to email us. Or, like I said, email one of the individuals listed here. Everybody kind of has the same level of information. You don't have to, it's kind of an eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Who do you want to answer your question? So that's why those links are there, and we're more than willing to help. The other thing that I wanted to show, which we're going to go back. No, we're going to go here.
So go back to your Zoom.
Okay.
And then go back to the share. Oh, where did I go?
Is it here? Do I have to go back here?
Oh, go up to the top there. Click
stop share. Okay, super.
And now click your next screen.
Here.
Go back to Zoom and say share screen, and then select. Yeah.
Oh.
And then you want that PowerPoint.
This one. Yeah. I'm a newbie to these podcasts, so you can tell it's pretty obvious. Okay, so what I want to show you here is, this is what, if you go into your student portal and you log in, this is what, once you have applied for financial aid and we've put some awards out there for you, which isn't an automatic process. You apply for financial aid, and basically that information goes into the federal government. Federal government gets it, and then they send it to us. Typically, we only go out and grab that information from the federal government once a week, because that's part of being small again. But we typically only go out and do that once a week. I know that it's going to say to you when you apply for financial aid, okay, your information's been sent to your school. Well, it's not an automatic. We have to go out and grab it. So we do that about once a week. And there are a couple steps involved. We're probably going to send you, right now we're still sending physical letters to students to say, we need you to fill out a questionnaire, or we need you to, go to your student portal and fill out your questionnaire, things like that, kind of give you an idea how to do that. We're looking at hopefully sending those by email soon, but right now they're still going out snail mail. But that really gets the process started. And it specifically tells you, how to get into your student portal if you don't know. But once you get in there, after we've given you, your awards are out there, this is what your screen's going to look like. And it's going to talk about, you really need to read the information that's here, because it talks about, okay, are you going to accept your loans? Are you going to decline your loans? If you are accepting the loans, you need to, view some instructions here. And then if you scroll down, you will see this next screen, which has your financial aid awards. That's going to be like at the bottom of that screen where the information was up on the top. And right now, this shows you that the student is only eligible for, the student's a one semester student with us, and we disperse all of our loans in 2 disbursements for our students. And you can accept or decline them here. And if you're accepting them, then you need to scroll up and read the information here about, accepting or declining your student loans. I need to make a note about. Okay. Here's another example of maybe what a student's awards might look like. And this is when the student actually clicks on View Pay My Bill over here instead of My Financial Aid. When you click on My Financial Aid, you're only going to see your awards after we've gone, posted them out there. If you click on View Pay My Bill, you're going to see, whoops, I scrolled up. You're going to see the cost of all your courses, etc. And you can click on Show Pending Financial Aid. And then you can see them both on the same screen. So if a student, a lot of the questions we get about financial aid are, am I going to have enough to pay for my courses? Once you've registered for your courses for a semester and we have your awards posted, which right now we don't have any posted for 18-19. We're just starting. We've been working on that for the last week and a half, and we think we're going to be going great guns by the end of this week. So students will start to hear from us. Yeah, so we're pretty excited about that. We started a new paperless process, so we've been holding off. But we should be going pretty strong by the end of the week. But once your awards are posted out there and you've registered for your classes, you can see that information out here. And you can see what the difference is going to be. I mean, this student has a previous balance from a previous semester, and their current balance. This is how much financial aid they've been offered, okay? And so if they accept all this financial aid, this student is still going to have, a bill they're going to have to pay. They don't quite have enough. So, I mean, then the student can be looking at, okay, what do I need to do here? What am I going to need to do to cover that? And maybe contacting our office and saying, okay, when is this due? Or you can pay it, that balance, by credit card, you can pay it by check, those things. That's all right in your student portal. The other thing that you can see that's in the student portal, and I don't have a screenshot of it, but view my payment plan. if you're not interested in financial aid, or you've got some financial aid and you're going to have a balance, maybe like that $1,294, you can set up a payment plan to pay off that balance of $1,294 in like 3 chunks of payments. If you know further ahead of time that it's going to be that much, you could get maybe a 4-payment payment plan to pay that off. And that's right there in your student portal along, under the administrative services. All the different financial things are right there. Your My Financial Aid, your View Your Payment Plan, View Pay My Bill, it's all right there. So it's kind of your one-stop shop. Short of, Heather being your best friend on campus, and maybe your advisor being your second best friend, this is the place to go because all your information is right here in your portal.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're going to stop sharing that one. And I don't know, do we have any questions out there that anybody specifically wants to ask? It's not too late to file for financial aid. That's the other big question that people ask us. They say, is it too late to file for financial aid for next year? It's never too late until we are starting to get to May of 2018 is going to be a struggle if the student's a student right now for 17-18, but otherwise we have people filling out their FAFSAs. I mean, we got some new FAFSAs in April for students that are here right now going to school for spring. So the deadline is the end of the school year.
Mm-hmm.
There are priority dates that are out there that we try to get students, the earlier that you apply, the better off you're going to be, because there may be state funding available to students that live in the state of Wisconsin that, there's some certain amount of money in a pot of money for the state grants, and that money runs out. So the sooner that you apply for financial aid, the sooner you may have some eligibility for those funds. But other than that, you can apply almost through the entire year. So it's definitely not too late to apply for financial aid for next year, for 18-19, but I would say do it, get out there and do it now.
I thought of a question.
Okay.
What's the difference between a subsidized loan and an unsubsidized?
Oh, good question, Heather. Can't tell she's been hanging around, can you? Okay. Subsidized loan is the better of those two, really. If we're going to go that far, we're going to say that the subsidized is the preferred loan, because that means there's no interest accruing on that loan while you've got the money borrowed and you're in school taking at least 6 credits a semester. Interest will start to accrue on a subsidized loan once you graduate or drop out. And we have to throw that in there because that happens. Just because you drop out doesn't mean you don't have to pay it back.
Right.
An unsubsidized loan, on the other hand, you're accruing interest on that loan money from the moment you borrow it.
Okay.
So you don't have to pay it until you graduate. Payments start 6 months after you get out of school. They give you, graduate or drop out typically. They give you 6 months to kind of get your bearings, get a job, get settled, and then your payments are going to kick in on student loans. And if you start school and you stop out for a year or so, your payments are going to kick in on those student loans. But if you come back to school and you have you're in school with at least 6 credits, typically you can defer those loans. But again, if you're not making the payments, you've got interest accruing, interest on interest, that kind of thing. So that can be kind of a struggle. But the interest is accruing. It's not like you still don't have to pay it on the unsubsidized loan. But you borrow $4,500 maybe, but when you start to pay it back, you're paying back $4,700 instead of with a subsidized loan. You're not accruing any interest while you're in school, so you borrow $4,500. When you start paying it back, you're paying back $4,500.
But interest
is going to start to accrue when you graduate, from the time you graduate or drop out.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And again, questions like this, please don't be afraid to contact us. That's what we're here for, really and truly.
Yeah.
And we don't mind answering those questions at all. Yeah. Now, you don't get to choose whether you get a subsidized or an unsubsidized loan, unfortunately.
Right.
That's based on cost, what it costs to attend school, what your FAFSA calculation result is, your EFC, that's your estimated family contribution. That comes from filling out your FAFSA. So the difference between those two things, the cost of attendance for attending Southwest Tech, depending on whether you're full-time or part-time, et cetera, that's going to be different. Might be different from semester to semester if you're full-time one semester and part-time the other semester. Mm-hmm. And then we have to take into consideration your estimated family contribution from your FAFSA. And along with any grants or any other funding that you're getting, we take those things into consideration, and then that determines whether you get subsidized loans or unsubsidized loans. The other thing that I want to mention, maybe for a student that was employed and their situation has changed and they're coming back to school, maybe your income isn't what it was this year when you're applying for 2018-19, this next year, you're going to use the tax return that you filed in 2016. So really and truly that income is like almost 2 whole years old when you're applying. That's new, that started last year, that the income is 2 years old. Your income may have been a full-time income on a job that you don't have anymore. And if that's the case, you still have to apply on the FAFSA website using that 2016 tax return information. But then what you really should do is contact the financial aid office and tell us that your situation has changed. We call them special conditions. Some people call them special circumstances, whatever, but your situation is significantly different and that income has changed. Then we can look at gathering some additional paperwork from you to, that shows us what your income actually is right now. And then we can make changes to your FAFSA based on that current income. And then we can, there may be adjustments. You may be eligible for some additional funding. Reasons for special conditions are, the first and foremost that I mentioned is, a significant change in income. And that could come from changing jobs, losing a job, retiring, lots of different things. The other things that we do special conditions for on a pretty regular basis are things like when you applied for financial aid, maybe you, or your tax return, you were married in 2016 and you're not now, you're single. We remove the spouse's income. You have to apply based on that tax return and those numbers. But then you contact us, tell us the situation, we collect some paperwork from you, and then we make the change in the income. You can't do it. The other situation would be maybe death of one of the spouses. In 2016, both of you are here. In 2018, one has passed. That income is no longer there. Maybe the other thing that we see a lot is a significant one-time income, a capital gain that's on a tax return that isn't normally a year-over-year thing that's on a tax return. Maybe you, one that we see a lot these days is maybe somebody logs their land and they maybe get like $80,000 on that tax return for that capital gain of those logs. That was a one-time income that household probably doesn't have right now. With documentation that that's actually what that capital gain was, we could look at taking that capital gain out. That's going to significantly change your adjusted gross income. We have, unfortunately, lots of farm sales and things like that where people are having huge capital gains because of the equipment and the cattle and things like that were sold. We can look at with some documentation that that's actually what that capital gain was. We can look at removing that income and making the household picture look more accurate as to what it really is right now instead of what it was 2 years ago. So those kinds of things, again, that's something we're going to want to talk to you about. So you're either going to want to email us or call us. But again, file the FAFSA based on what the tax return says, and then contact us, and we can talk you through that. Yeah.
So another question that I know a lot of students have is I'm taking 1 credit classes that are 4-week classes. How does that affect my disbursement of financial aid? What does that look like?
Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of good information out there. That's one of our goals in financial aid is to get something out there about that right now. Those stacked classes, it ends up being a little bit different for disbursement. You're not really eligible for a disbursement until you've got at least 6 credits on the books. And you may start out with 4 credits, and our first disbursement in, let's say, this spring, it was February, the 3rd week in February. You may only be in 4 credits at that point. We're not going to disperse any money to you until you hit that 6th credit. And that's the other thing that we do a little bit differently here at Southwest Tech with online students. We make sure that they are actually participating in the coursework before we disperse the money to you. And that's for your protection as well as ours, honestly, because if we disperse it to you and then you're not participating, and we get to the end of the semester and find out that you weren't participating in those credits and you stopped participating the first week in March, then we actually have to go back and return some of that money to the federal government, and then we have to get it back from you. You're not going to have that money because we dispersed it to you in February. We dealt with it before. We know that money's not just going to be sitting there, okay? So we're not going to get it back from you. So we're trying to protect the student a little bit here by saying we're not going to give you the money until you're eligible for it, okay? Because we don't want you to have a bill on the books and owe us that money back for any reason. So the reason we're checking to make sure you're still participating before we disperse the money is really in your best interest at this point, we feel. And the same thing with the stack classes where you're maybe only in 4 credits when we disperse. We have some students that just this week, they hit their 6th credit last week. They're not getting their loans dispersed until this week. And our business office knows who those students are. They're not going to late charge those students. If they did late charge you and you're one of those students, you need to contact us and we'll take a look at it. There maybe are other circumstances in there that you may have gotten late charged, but we'll look at it. But they know that they're not going to late charge those students, that there's going to be money coming. The problem comes in when, you were 4 credits when we dispersed in the beginning. You got into your 5th credit in March. You were supposed to get into your 6th credit in April, and you didn't start that 6th credit. Yeah, that's not cool. Because then what that means is you don't become eligible at any point for that funding. And you have 5 credits worth of bill with us, and probably maybe some textbooks or something like that. So that's where that becomes problematic. You could decide not to take any courses until maybe the courses that you want to take don't start till March. And 3 credits start in March and 3 credits start in May. You're not going to get your disbursement till May, possibly. Some students will take a course that runs the entire semester, like let's say oral interpersonal. It's a 3 credit class. It runs from January to May. They take that online, and then they add 1 credit supplements along the way. Again, once you hit that 6th credit, typically the following week, we try to disperse that money. We've got some students we realized today that we're dispersing some money to, some Pell Grant money, because they've added classes in the last 2 to 3 weeks, actually. Anybody's, again, wondering how their disbursement's going to work or anything like that, don't be afraid to reach out to us online or on the phone, either one.
Do you want to cover anything about, we had talked about, like if they get an F for the class, then they have to pay that back?
there are two things that financial aid has to monitor. And Southwest Tech's policy is to monitor them every semester. We have to monitor them at least once a year, but our policy is to monitor them every semester. And that is your GPA for financial aid purposes has to be 2.0 or higher. That's a C average. You don't have to be a rocket scientist, okay? And the other thing we have to monitor is your credit completion percentage. That one the GPA one, people kind of expect that. The credit completion, people aren't really expecting. And what that is that we have to monitor that you're completing at least 67% of the credits that you take cumulatively, okay? So let's say that you start out with 12 credits in a semester and, life happened and you withdrew from 2 of those courses, which were 3 credit courses. So you withdrew from 6 credits. What's your completion percentage at that point? 50% at the end of that semester, okay? Your GPA was okay with the other 2 classes, 2 3-credit classes that you had. So that was above a 2.0. So basically what that does is, though, that throws you into a financial aid warning status. We send you something at the end of the semester that says you're on financial aid warning, which means you continue to get financial aid for the next semester, okay? But you have to bring that completion percentage or PACE, and we explain that on the document that we send you, up to at least 67% by the end of that next semester. So we're going to go in and look at the end of, say, that spring semester, then that second semester, that, okay, if you took 12 credits, okay, that you didn't withdraw from 6 of them again, because if you did, then your cumulative completion percentage is 50%. Mm-hmm. And the federal government says you're not keeping up your end of the bargain, basically, and we have to cut off your financial aid access at that point. Mm. Now, if there are special circumstances involved with the reason that you had to drop some of the classes and things like that, and keep in mind, special circumstances as far as the federal government is concerned are not things like, I wasn't prepared for college. I didn't know I was going to have to study so hard. That's not a special circumstance. Or I didn't attend the class because I didn't think my instructor liked me. That's not a special circumstance. Things like, maybe the death of a family member. Maybe you as a student had to, we've had students halfway through the semester that have ended up finding out they had to have back surgery or something like that, and they were going to be out for 2 or 3 weeks. They weren't going to be able to catch up. They weren't going to be able to do it online, things like that. They had to drop some of the classes. Things like that can be documented and are truly a special circumstance. We can work with you on that. But, the other things that, I just didn't realize how much work it was going to be. That's not a special circumstance. And the federal government doesn't think so either. So we don't have a leg to stand on with that. You can't just keep withdrawing from classes to save your GPA. Because that's what a lot of students do. They think, I got to withdraw from those classes because I don't want to get a D or an F, which is a good thing. But the problem is with financial aid, we have to monitor both of those things. And people don't realize that. So they're dropping those classes so they can get a good GPA. I mean, you could drop 6 of 12 credits and have a 4.0 GPA if you got A's in both of those remaining classes and have a 4.0. But your completion percentage, which we also have to look at, is suffering. So, and people don't realize that we're going to monitor both of those things.
Right.
So you can always ask us the questions. And what the advisors try to do is tell students, before you drop these classes or before, you ask me to drop these classes for you, the advisor will say, contact financial aid and see if this is going to have any bearing on your financial aid going forward. And that's really important because if you just tell them to drop them, and like the example I used of, you dropped half of them the first semester and then you dropped half of them again the second semester to save your GPA, you're going on financial aid suspension at the end of that year. And you're not eligible for financial aid with financial aid suspension. So, you can get financial aid eligibility back, but you have to pay for some credits on your own, be successful with them before we'll reinstate you. So it's a lot more work to get it back than it is to just keep it, you know? So yeah, that does make a difference. The other thing about an F and a W mean the same thing in the financial aid world. You're not successful with the class. So it doesn't matter that it's a W or an F. In our world, they mean the same thing. In your world, the F affects your GPA much more significantly. The W doesn't affect your GPA. So, I mean, you know, it might be something that you want to contact us and say, you know, I don't know what to do here. Is this going to be a problem for me if I do this? We have students do that all the time. Oh, I need to withdraw from this, you know, general A&P. I'm not doing well. If I do that, is it going to affect my financial aid next semester or this semester? We're more than happy to help you with that. You know, talk to you about it, talk you through it, see if there's, you know, if there is something else you can do, that kind of thing. We don't want, you know, the student to be in the lurch with, you know, owing money and not having the money to pay for it. So we really want to work with you on those things. It's the people that kind of fade off into the sunset. They start the classes, they're not going well, so they just stop working on them. They get Fs. And then a year or two down the road, they decide they want to come back to school. And they can't because they owe us a bill, that kind of thing. That's a little harder to deal with. So we'd rather deal with it up front, find the best solution for you, the student, and try and work with it that way. So keep that in mind. That's, you know, we really do want to work with you on those things.
And I think that's true across campus. So if you're not doing well in a class, seek out your resources. We've got academic success coaches. We've got myself, the online navigator. There are so many resources. And as I've been telling students this semester, we don't want our students to struggle alone. So contact somebody. Don't be too proud. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be all those things. Just call and say, hey, this is where I'm at. What are my options? And one of us, you know, whichever one you decide to call is going to help you process through that and direct you to the right people. And really, really, sincerely, Southwest Tech is here to help our students be successful.
And we've added success coaches in the last couple of years. We've added Heather's position just for those reasons, for the students to reach out to and get the help that they need. Because really, I mean, it really does boil down to we want you to be successful. We're not just here to get people in and not care what's going on the other end. We really do care whether or not the students are surviving and thriving in the programs that they're in. We don't want you, you know, out there by yourself, not knowing what to do. You reach out to Heather, you reach out to your advisor. If you don't know who the academic success coaches are and you need some help with writing or you need some help with sciences, Heather and your student success coach can point you in that direction. We don't want you out there struggling. We really don't.
And we have a great website too. So worst case scenario, if you don't want to call somebody, put it in the search bar what you're looking for, and the website will get you that resource as well. So yeah.
A lot of improvements there in the last year or two. Yeah. A lot of improvements.
Lots of improvement.
Yeah, definitely. So.
Definitely. Well, good. Anything else that you can think of to wrap us up, or?
No, just reach out to us if you have any questions. We can't say it enough. Like I said, it's not going to be necessarily an instantaneous response. We have some people that will call our phone number, our financial aid phone number, and it'll ring, and we can't answer it because, we're helping students and things like that, so we don't get to it right away. And literally, the student will hang up and call again. And hang up and call, you might be in a hurry, but, we truly try to get back to people within 24 hours if there's any way possible. Most of the time it's less than that, but we really will get back to you one way or the other. So reach out. I mean, we can't help you if we don't know what your questions are. And if you've got the question, chances are somebody else has it too.
Mhm.
So reach out, because really, I tell students that all the time. They're, oh, thank you for the help. Thank you for the help. And I'm like, that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Reach out. That's what we're here for. So, yeah, that's why we're here.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Joy, for coming and shedding light on this financial aid. And again, if you have any questions, give us a call.